You stand before your closet every single morning feeling completely overwhelmed. You stare at 30 different shirts and feel like you have nothing to wear. You are stressed about a tiny coffee stain on your favorite white tee. You worry if your shoes match the specific shade of your belt. Now, imagine stripping every single thread away from your body right now. Imagine standing in the middle of a jagged and frozen mountain pass. The wind is cutting through your bare skin like 1,000 glass blades. You have no fur, no thermal jacket, and no sense of security. You are just a fragile mammal shivering in a world that wants you dead. If that mental image gives you the chills, then you are in the right place. Welcome to Human Trace, the channel where we realize our ancestors were geniuses. Hit that subscribe button because we are about to make your laundry feel epic. Today we are uncovering how a tiny bone needle saved our entire species. Because the history of your hoodie is actually a story of extreme survival. For a long time, we were just like every other creature in the forest. We were covered in thick, coarse hair that kept us warm and dry. But about 1.2 million years ago, everything started to change fast. Early humans began to lose their body, hair to handle the heat. We were persistence hunters, running 4 hours across the scorching African savanna. If we kept the fur, our brains would have literally cooked inside our skulls. So we traded the natural coat for the ability to sweat and stay cool. This was a brilliant survival strategy during the hot daylight hours of the hunt, but it left us completely vulnerable when the sun went down in the wild. It also left us naked to the elements when we moved to colder lands. This is why you feel that instant panic when the heater stops working today. Your body remembers the time when nakedness meant certain death in the dark. But how do we know when we actually started covering up our skin? Fabric and leather do not survive in the dirt for hundreds of thousands of years. They rot away into nothingness, leaving archaeologists with a massive empty mystery. So scientists had to get creative and look at something truly disgusting. They looked at the genetic history of the parasites living on our bodies. Specifically, they looked at the difference between head lice and body lice. Head lice live in your hair, but body lice live in your clothes. By tracking their DNA, researchers found a massive split in their family tree. This split happened roughly 170,000 years ago in the past. That date is our first real receipt for a permanent human wardrobe. It proves that by then, we were wearing clothes consistently enough for bugs. Before this, we were likely using skins only when the weather got truly bad. But by this point, the ancient world was getting much colder and harsher. In Schagingen, Germany, we found evidence of the very first animal skinning. Hungry humans were taking down massive cave bears over 300,000 years ago. They weren't just eating the meat to stay alive in the deep woods. They were carefully removing the pelts to use as heavy, protective blankets. Imagine the courage it took to face a cave bear with a stick. Now imagine doing it because you were freezing to death in a cave. This wasn't about looking good or following a trend for the social group. Think about that. The next time you put on your winter coat, you aren't just wearing fabric, you are wearing a piece of survival technology. By 120,000 years ago, we were getting much better at it. In Contrabandier's cave in Morocco, we found specialized tools made of animal bone. These weren't weapons for the hunt or tools for building wooden shelters. They were hide scrapers designed to remove fat and flesh from raw skins. If you don't scrape a hide correctly, it will rot and smell terrible. Our ancestors figured out the chemistry of leather production through pure trial and error. They were the world's first material scientists working in the dirt and grime. Every time you complain about a scratchy tag, remember the Morocco leather shop. But these early clothes were still just loose wraps and heavy animal capes. They were bulky, hard to move in, and let in the cold air. Then, about 80,000 years ago, the first bone awls appeared in history. An awl is a sharp, pointy tool used to punch holes in leather. This allowed our ancestors to lace pieces of skin together using animal sinew. Now, they could make clothes that actually fit the shape of their body. This was a total game changer for humans moving into the northern frost. A fitted garment traps a layer of warm air right against your skin. It is the same reason your modern thermal underwear works so well today. If you can stay warm, you can hunt longer and travel much further. But the real revolution happened about 40,000 years ago in the timeline. This was the invention of the eyed needle, the iPhone of the Paleolithic. It seems like a simple object, just a sliver of bone with a hole, but it allowed for complex, multi-layered sewing for the very first time. With anidal, you can make waterproof boots and tight, warm undergarments. You can stitch together different types of fur for different levels of insulation. This technology is what allowed humans to finally conquer the brutal Arctic regions. While other groups struggled with simple capes, we are making high-tech prints. This explains why you feel so much better when you finally put on socks. Your brain recognizes the feeling of a sealed environment, protecting your fragile feet. But clothing quickly became about more than just staying alive in the snow. It became a way to tell the world exactly who you were inside. In Georgia, scientists found flax fibers dyed in vibrant pink and deep turquoise. These fibers are 34,000 years old and were used for decoration. Even in the middle of an ice age, humans wanted to look beautiful. They wanted to stand out from the crowd and show off their status. Fine tailoring and rare furs showed everyone that you were a successful hunter. This is why we care so much about brand names and logos today. Your ancestors were using seashells and dyed thread to send social signals. You aren't being shallow when you pick a cool outfit for a party. You are using a 30,000-year-old communication system to find your tribe. Clothing also helped us manage the new reality of living in large groups. As villages grew, modesty became a way to keep the social peace. It created a boundary between your private self and the public world. This is why you feel that sudden jolt of embarrassment if a door opens. You are hardwired to protect your privacy as a way to maintain order. In February of 2026, we found the oldest direct evidence of sewn clothes. At Cougar Mountain Cave in Oregon, researchers found fragments of stitched elk hide. These pieces are 12,000 years old and look remarkably sophisticated. They showed that ancient foragers were master sewists with incredible technical skills. They weren't primitive people shivering in the dark with no plan at all. They were engineers who mastered the materials of their world to survive. Every stitch in that elk hide was a middle finger to the cold. Every bead on an ancient tunic was a declaration of human creativity and life. We didn't just survive the harsh environment of the ancient world by luck. We survived because we learned how to wrap ourselves in the world around us. We turned the skins of our predators into the shields of our children. So the next time you feel annoyed while doing your endless weekly laundry, take a second to look at the seams on your favorite warm sweatshirt. Those seams represent 170,000 years of human ingenuity. You are wearing the legacy of people who refuse to freeze or fail. You aren't just getting dressed to go to a boring office job. You are putting on the armor that allowed your ancestors to reach today. You are not malfunctioning because you care about how your clothes look. You are just remembering a time when a needle was a miracle. Stay warm. Stay curious. And remember, you come from a line of survivors. Subscribe to Human Trace for more stories about why you are so human. Now go fold those clothes with a little bit of ancient pride tonight.